Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is in regards to nutrition, and the title is Change Your Food or Change Your Training. So what this is in reference to is if you're kind of chugging along in your nutrition and your training, and you're at a point of kind of evaluation. So maybe you're at the end of a 4-week program or whatever week program, and you have done some measurements, did some check-ins with photos or something, and you're kind of like assessing where you go from here. And you're kind of happy with your results, but you want to push your results in maybe a certain way. So recently this actually came up with an online client of mine. She's doing strength training and body shaping. So we're doing some bodybuilding, but not necessarily trying to make her gain a bunch of weight, more so just kind of evening out her body. So that way she can have balanced muscles, nice good looking curves, but she doesn't want to necessarily be a bodybuilder where she has big, massive muscles. And she wants to work on strength, specifically getting better at powerlifting. So we were kind of talking about how she feels stronger and her lifts are going up, and she can see a shape change. She was noticing, especially in her booty, so which we were targeting to improve her performance with squats and deadlifts. And she was saying how she liked all of that, but she wanted to be maybe a touch leaner. And then that brought the question of, if we want to be leaner, what should we adjust? And the typical question is, do you adjust nutrition or training? So that's why we figured we'd do the podcast. Now, most people don't consider that second question, that second option of adjusting training. They just think, I need to adjust my food. However, we're going to discuss in this podcast that sometimes that's not the best answer, and it's actually going to counter the results you actually want to achieve. So instead, we want to change the training. So let's go through kind of 3 common scenarios, and we'll go through the ups and downs, pros and cons, and we'll see if it helps you decide for your own progress which you should change. So let's go with the first goal of the person has kind of checked in with the program, everything's going well, but they want to get better results towards weight loss. So how do we do that? And they don't, this is in specific to the fact that they don't want to necessarily get weaker in terms of strength, but they don't really care about strength. Strength isn't their main concern, nor is their main concern muscle growth. So they don't want to, unnecessarily get weak. They don't want to unnecessarily lose muscle, but they really want to get that weight off. So that's kind of the bigger goal. So typically we look at that. The equation for weight loss, the things we have to consider, is to eat less and move more. That's typically what people say, and I've said it before in podcasts, that's kind of what you need to do if you want to lose weight. You got to eat less and move more. So you burn more calories by moving more, and you eat less calories. Therefore, it equals a caloric deficit. So you're taking in less calories than what you're using, and that promotes your body to burn up body fat to make up that energy difference. So the first thing I usually do with clients is, instead of eating less, we actually want to look and see if we can eat better. And what this is in regards to is meal timing, maybe our food selections, maybe there's better quality of food we can eat. So if the person's eating Oreos, maybe we can replace those carbs with something like, rice instead of Oreos. So maybe there's just better foods that we can eat. And that's typically going to be the best place to look. So we did a podcast in the past, podcast number 41, called Diet Right, What Matters Most. And we've talked about what are the main concerns with diets. So what are the main components of a diet? Number 1 would be calories. Number 2 is macronutrient percentage. And what that means is how much protein we're eating compared to carbs and fats. Then we have meal timing. Then we have macronutrient quality. And that would be in regards to eating like white rice versus brown rice, stuff like that. Then number 5 is kind of a catch-all for everything else, supplementation, blah, 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 blah. So if you want to clean up your nutrition, it doesn't have to be reducing calories. There are those other components that you can address. So like we said, the second most important component of dieting is macronutrient percentage. So what I would look at is somebody and say, okay, you're getting good results so far. We know that we want to get leaner, but instead of us dropping our calories first, let's see if there's a way we can kind of improve our percentage of what we're eating. And oftentimes you'll find that the person might be under eating their protein. which means they're going to be eating more carbs and fats than they really would need. And by eating more carbs and fats than what they need, they're decreasing the rate of body fat breakdown. To whereas if we don't even adjust their calories, we just increase the percentage of those calories coming from protein, that'll automatically decrease the percentage coming from carbs and fats, and that'll increase their ability to burn off stored body fat. Now, there is a negative to this. You can't just eat 100% protein and think you're going to feel good. You're going to feel like crap. So I've done diets as high as 40% in protein, and I've found that did not really get me much better results than a diet that was more around 25 or 30%. So diets that are kind of more around like that 1 gram to 1.5 gram per pound of protein, that's going to give you a better kind of overall percentage of your diet in terms of how many calories are going to be coming from carbs and fats compared to protein. So there's a minimal amount that if you don't eat enough protein, that means you're overeating your carbs and fats than what you would need. Or there's too much protein, which means you're not going to get in enough carbs and fats, and you're not going to feel very good. So you're going to have technically the correct amount of calories that you should be having, but you're not going to have enough of those calories coming from energy nutrients like carbs and fats, and it's going to kind of feel sluggish. You're not going to feel very good for energy. You're having a mental fog. Overall, the whole process just kind of slows down and becomes inefficient. So that's actually something we want to avoid. So, and how do we know is too much protein? How much do we know is too little? And it's usually, we've done a podcast in the past, by the way, about how much protein do you need. So, but it's around that 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if I weigh 150, I would eat around 150 grams of protein. That's a pretty good kind of sweet spot kind of number. So that works well for most people. So that's the first thing you want to address whenever you're looking at, should I change my food or change my diet? Change my training. You want to look at changing your food and not necessarily eating less, but eating better. So like we said, the second component was what we just talked about in terms of macronutrient percentage. The next thing is meal timing. And meal timing refers to if I eat a calorie, like say a meal that has enough calories to last about 3 to 4 hours worth of energy, then I want to be eating again in 3 to 4 hours. If I eat a meal that has 3 hours worth of energy, but I wait 7 or 8 hours to eat, my body had that time of being in a deficit. It's going to get really grumpy, and it's not going to like the fact that it didn't have enough calories. So then when you eat, it's going to try to save extra calories from that next meal to kind of make up in case there's another drought or another deficit of food coming in. So our body is very protective, and it gets very mad when we do dumb things to it. So if I eat at breakfast and my food burns off, like let's say I eat at 6 o'clock, my food burns off by 9 a.m., but I don't eat until 2 p.m. Your body's going to go into that meal at 2 p.m. going, oh my gosh, I needed this food. I was having to tear myself down. I wasn't fed well enough. Let me save all of this meal so that way in case I have to go through another gap, I'll be well protected. So that actually decreases and negatively impacts our ability to lose body fat. So by eating our meals timed better to the caloric amount, so if we eat a meal that has a caloric amount average lasting about 4 hours, we would then eat about 4 hours later. That way we kind of we burned off the calories we ate, we maybe picked off a few units of body fat, but we didn't cause a huge starvation type concern with our body. Now, I'm over dramatizing this a little bit, but I wanted to sink in that timing does matter. So one of the ways I think of this, a good analogy I use for fat loss, is if we're trying to pick off body fat off the body, it would be similar to, let's say we're trying to steal candy from a kid. So let's say a kid after Halloween has 100 pieces of candy. Let's say you're walking past the table where he has all the candy laid out, and you try to take a big swipe away. So you take maybe 20 pieces really fast. The kid sees you, he becomes alarmed, all of a sudden he hides his candy and you can't find it anymore. That would be like trying to take big extreme measures in diets. So if I eat breakfast, but then I wait, 12 hours to eat again, your body's well aware that you just tried to take a big swipe of body fat, and it says, screw you, and starts fighting that process. So instead, if we're trying to steal that candy from that kid, I can walk past it one day and sneak 1 or 2 pieces. They probably won't notice. And the next day we come in, we sneak another 1 or 2 pieces. They probably won't notice. So that's how you really want to do it, is you sneak a few pieces here or there. No red flags come up. The kid doesn't freak out and try to panic and try to protect anything. He almost doesn't even notice. That's how we want to pick off body fat. We want to pick off a little bit here, a little bit there, in a manner in which the body yeah, maybe it tells that we're doing it. Maybe you can understand it, but it doesn't feel freaked out. It doesn't feel in danger or throw up any red flags and start fighting the process. So that's what we want to look at. We want to look at eating better. And the two main things you can look at that have the biggest impact is your percentage of your foods, so how much carbs versus fats versus proteins, and then having your meal timing match your food. So you want to eat, typically the best way that I find it works best for most people is to eat about every 3 to 5 hours, so about every 4 hours. So we typically have a breakfast. They have a small kind of snack thing in the mid-morning. They have lunch. They have a small snack thing in the mid-afternoon. And then they have supper. And then by eating a little bit more during the day with those little snacks, it allows most people to not need to eat at night after dinner. Now, need to is an important statement because they still might do it out of habit or boredom, or just because they like to, but they won't need to. So they won't have these major cravings that makes them eat everything in the kitchen at 10 o'clock at night because they were under eating all day. So that's typically what we look for. Okay, so if your main goal, if you're reevaluating and you're deciding what do I do from here, do I change my nutrition or do I change my training? Don't eat less. If you want weight loss, eat better. Make sure your percentages are correct, make sure your meal timing is correct, and then look through and make sure, okay, am I eating the best quality of foods? So that, like example we said of Oreos versus rice. So if I'm eating white rice, maybe I can switch to brown rice. Maybe if I'm eating white bread, maybe I can switch to wheat bread. But that's a really small change in the grand scheme of things. So make sure you look at meal timing and macronutrient percentage first. Okay? Now, for the move more part, you do want to, if your goal is weight loss, be involving some type of exercise. It helps a ton. So it allows you to eat more if you're burning calories. So that way you don't have to rely on all your caloric deficit for weight loss coming from a food reduction. You can get some of those calories, quote unquote, burned off, so by just being more active. So you want to try to find within your schedule and within the amount of exercise that you can recover well from, you want to try to maximize that before you reduce calories. So if you have the ability, say you're only working out 1 day a week now, but you know you can fit in a second or a third day, you want to do that before you adjust your calories. Anytime you reduce calories, your body will automatically try to reduce its overall rate of processes in the body down to that caloric amount. So if I was previously eating 3,000 and I now eat 2,000, my body will try to learn how to run off of just 2,000. It'll downgrade all of the processes it can and try to reduce its overall expenditure down to 2,000. It's a good thing it does that because that way we didn't die whenever food wasn't so readily available as it is today. So it's a good thing our body can do that. But it is annoying because it means that we have to be careful on when we create a caloric reduction, we're actually reducing the speed in which our body processes things. And that is referred to as metabolism. So when somebody says they have a slow metabolism, that means their body doesn't operate at a very fast pace. Whereas if they have a fast metabolism, that means their body is operating at a fast pace. So it does things quickly and efficiently and kind of operates at like a busy schedule throughout the day. So our goal is the more active we are, that allows us to eat more, and that allows us to keep our metabolism higher. And that allows you to have more room to lose weight later on if you do have to do a caloric reduction. So you can only reduce calories so much until the body starts freaking out. So the longer you can put that off and the more other ways you can find to lose weight, the better off your whole process will be, and you won't reach a plateau as fast. Okay? And then also by not having to reduce calories, you get to keep better energy levels, better recovery between workouts, better mood, so you don't want to punch everyone in the face. So that's the goal. So that was a long-winded one, but that was the most complicated one. Is if we're at a point of reevaluating our progress, and where do we go from here with our process? Do we want to reduce food or reduce or increase our training? If our goal is weight loss, the answer is to move more. So include as much physical activity as you can, and then eat better. Eat better, not eat less. Okay? Now, what happens if I'm kind of happy with the results I'm getting? I want to continue to get stronger in my training, so maybe my training does involve strength. I want to continue to shape and build muscle, but I also kind of want to get leaner. So I want everything. So I do care about if I lose strength. I do care about if I lose the ability to change and shape my muscles. So I don't want to reduce my calories, which would negatively impact both of those. But I want to be leaner, which conventional typical wisdom says that you should reduce calories, which is not true. We just explained why that's not true. So what should you do? With nutrition, typically you want to eat the same. Okay, you don't want to change much to your nutrition, because if you reduce your calories, like we said, that will lower your metabolism, that negatively impacts your ability to build muscle, and that negatively impacts strength progression over time. Now, you can still get stronger by improving technique, but in terms of physical adaptations that result in strength, it'll be slower progress if you reduce calories. So, if we're not going to reduce calories, how can we get leaner? The answer is to move more and improve the way you move. I didn't even mean for that to rhyme, but that's pretty cool. So that would be the idea. So don't reduce calories to get leaner, because it'll negatively impact your strength and your muscle growth. However, what you end up wanting to do is to eat the same but increase your overall volume in your workouts. And you can do that through a couple different ways, but just trying to move more within the hour, like the time that you have in your workout. So if you have 1 hour, you're just going to try to move around more and get more done in 1 hour. That's going to burn up more calories. That's going to help you get leaner. But you won't have to reduce your calories, which will negatively impact the other two goals you have of strength and muscle shape and size. So examples of how we can move more is using things like supersets and circuits, and other intensity type techniques like rest, pause, drop sets. There's a whole bunch of other ones. So if you want a handout of what all those techniques are, shoot us an email at brutalironGym@gmail.com. We already have it written out. I can send it to you and it'll give you some ideas. So what a superset is doing 2 exercises back to back with no rest in between. A circuit is doing 3 or more exercises back to back with no rest in between. So for example, a superset is I might do chest presses into back rows, and right after my chest presses I walk right over, go right into my back rows, and then I would take a break for both exercises. So you're kind of smushing 2 exercises together. A circuit would be doing 3. So I might do chest presses, back rows, and dumbbell lateral raises. Do that all as a circuit, then only take a 1-minute rest, and then go again. The other options we said there was rest pause, which is a technique of going to good form failure, taking an abbreviated rest period. So maybe your typical rest were 1 minute, but now you're only going to take 30 seconds. And then you try to do more reps. So you shorten your rest periods, but try to keep the same weight that you've been using, and it just kind of beats the crap out of you, but it's really good for strength. The other option is decreasing your weight. So you would go to good form failure, you would decrease weight that you're using, go to failure again, decrease weight, go to failure again. Those are called drop sets because you're dropping down in weight. But that's a way of bunching a lot of reps up with shorter time because you're shortening your rest times in between those bouts of effort. So that would be a good way of doing it. So your main goal, if you want to continue to get stronger, continue to have the ability to build and shape muscles, but you do want to get leaner, is don't take away from your food. Do not take away from your food. You can look at seeing if you can eat better. So improve your macronutrient percentages, improve your meal timing, improve the quality of what you eat, but do not decrease your calories. Instead, try to add in more volume, add in more work in your workouts. That'll get you the best effect. Now, what if we were reevaluating our whole process and I say, okay, I want to get stronger and bigger, and I don't even care if I get a little bit fluffier. So I just want to get freaking strong and jacked. I want to be a freaking monster, and it's okay if I gain, 5 pounds or so of body fat. I can afford it. I don't mind. Then your answer is to eat more. So if you want to get bigger, you have to eat things that allow you to get bigger. So if I want to build a bigger brick house, I have to add bricks, right? If I want to build bigger muscles, I have to add more food. That's the way it works. So you want to increase through proteins and make sure you're eating at the top of the range, which is 1.5 grams per pound of protein. So if I weigh 150 pounds, I would want to eat 225 grams of protein. Once I have my protein up to that range at 1.5 grams per pound, I would then want to increase my calories from carbs and fats, but mostly around my workout times. I would eat a little bit more carbs before my workout, help give me more energy to train a little bit harder, and then I would eat more carbs and fats after my workout to help me with my recovery. But I don't want to increase calories totally away from my workouts because it's probably unnecessary. So adjust your protein first, get up to the 1.5 grams per pound of body weight, and then increase your calories around your workout time, and then you'll see an effect there. Now, with the training, you do want to kind of move more if your goal is to get bigger muscles and get stronger. And what I mean by this is you don't want to add a whole bunch of crap to your workouts where it feels like you're doing cardio. So nothing in your workouts should have a cardiovascular failure before a muscular failure or a strength failure. So your training should be directed around strength failures and muscular failures. So where something burns so freaking much you can't keep going. That's what you're looking for, rather than you're so out of breath you can't keep going. So you can add in techniques, like we said before, like the rest pauses and drop sets. You probably don't need to do as much supersets and circuits, although they're still pretty good. So there's going to be a fine line of balance with this goal, is if you abandon all cardiovascular activity and you just do everything slow and heavy in your workouts, you're not going to get enough freaking work in. You're not going to get enough volume in for muscle growth. And your workouts will have to probably get longer and longer and longer, and your cardiovascular endurance will decrease. And actually, a poor cardiovascular endurance health will decrease your ability to recover between workouts and between sets. So you won't be able to do as much work per workout. And that's going to negatively impact your ability to produce strength and increase muscle mass. So there is some degree of cardiovascular endurance which is necessary to get the best benefits for strength and muscle growth. So how much is that? It's really hard to say because it depends on how big you are and male or female, how much muscle you carry versus how much body fat, blah, 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 blah. So generally what I would say is that in your main big lifts, if you're doing squat, bench, deadlift, stuff like that, taking 3 to 5 minute rest is normal. Some people take longer. I'm not a big advocate of that because I think you just waste time. So I take 3 to 5 minute rests. And then when I do my accessory lifts or my other lifts, I generally take about 2 minute rest, maybe up to 3, and I often will do a superset where I do 2 things back to back. It allows me to get a good amount of volume in. I get my 2 or 3 minute rest in, so that way I'm not reaching a cardiovascular failure during my activities. So at no point in any of that am I failing because I can't breathe. I'm failing because my muscles are burning or I can't lift it. But there's no need for me to take a longer rest in between sets than what's needed to just recover my strength. So if I'm taking longer than what's needed to recover my strength, so maybe I took a 6 minute break when I really could have done the exact same performance after a 5 minute break, then stop wasting that extra time and take the shorter break. Okay? That's going to help you get better results in terms of muscle mass and strength production because you're going to get more volume, more work done in your workout. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. I think this is a good question because a lot of people kind of run into this roadblock and don't know what to adjust. And sometimes they'll adjust the wrong thing and absolutely screw up their results. So that's the idea. The question here is change your diet or change your training. You want to look at training first to make sure it's optimized. You want to look at the way you eat first and make sure it's optimized. So you're doing the best of what you already should be doing. That's the big thing to do, okay? So look at that stuff first. And then make the adjustments based on what we talked about here. So if your goal is weight loss, you want to lose weight, then you want to eat better and move more and try to maximize that. And you can go through the rest of it. I don't want to rerun it because we've already been doing this for 23 minutes. But go through and make those changes based on the 3 kind of categories that most people fall into. So hopefully this was helpful. Now, if you listen to all this, you took notes, and you're having trouble applying it, shoot us an email at brutalironGym@gmail.com, and we'll give you some tips and suggestions. So we're not going to charge you if you email us, okay? So it's fun to get feedback from people, and it's fun to help work through these things because we learn as well. So it's pretty cool. It's a shared experience by both parties. So shoot us an email if you listen to this and you want to do it, but you're confused on how to do it. We'll help you out, okay? So if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. Also, if you like this podcast, you can sign up to become a patron of the podcast by donating $10 or more a month towards the podcast. And for your donation, we will send you a training program. Okay, so you can get a training program of whatever you want, whether it's strength, aesthetics, general health, overall health, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Just tell us what your goal is, and we'll send you a program for it. We'll do that every single month for only $10 a month. Pretty good. So if you want to become a patron of the podcast, you can donate directly on the Podbean app. You can send us an email or do a Google search, become a patron, Brutal Iron Gym Podcast. And if you like the podcast, please share it with your family and friends. So the more people we help, the happier the world will be. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. So this podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. And you can reach us at our email at brutalironGym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.